Hi, this is Fred Meyer with Writers.com, and I'm here with one of our instructors, Jesse Festa. Jesse, how you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, good to see you. And today we're going to talk a bit about blogging, and specifically blogging professionally, blogging as an income source or even as a career. And Jesse is quite qualified to talk with us about the possibilities there. So maybe where we can start is, Jesse, would you just tell us how you got started blogging and kind of how that moved into becoming essentially your full-time job?
Yeah. So when I was in college, my whole goal was to be do actually nonprofit PR. Then I studied abroad in Australia, and I was sort of like bitten by the travel bug, as they say. And I just knew like I had to keep doing this. In college, it was kind of easy. I would waitress like crazy, and then save up, and then go off and do it again, and very flexible at the place I worked. But once I graduated, I actually stayed an extra year to get my master's, and it was really because I wanted to keep traveling. But once I kind of graduated, I had to get a real job, and I didn't want to do it. So I was researching like crazy these travel jobs, and I had never really heard of a blog. I think I had heard of it, but I thought it was like a journal. And I saw people actually doing travel blogging full time. So I just pursued it really aggressively, and within a year, I was able to take it full time.
Oh my God. When was that? Around when?
I graduated with my master's in 2010. Yeah, so I started my blog in 2011, my first blog, Jesse on a Journey. And then I started a second travel blog in 2012, Epicure and Culture.
Yeah, and so between those two, you basically are a full-time professional blogger.
Yep. Jesse on a Journey is really like the main business. And then Epicure and Culture, I started as sort of a passion project that still earns me money as well. But Jesse on a Journey is sort of the focus.
Gotcha. Within that year where you were, learning and researching, um, you know, what were kind of the first things that really jumped out at you about blogging as a business? What really leaped out about just the shape of the industry and the lifestyle, as you were learning about it?
Yeah, so I'll say the landscape in 2011 was completely different. The way people made money was completely different. It was really mainly sponsored posts back then, which you could still do now, but there are so many other ways to make money now, and blogging is taken a lot more seriously now, which is nice. But I really had no idea what I was doing, so I was really learning slowly, little by little. But I knew that I wanted to keep traveling, and I wanted the the location independence, and I really wanted to basically be my own boss and get paid to be creative. So I just kept kind of chiseling away and learning little by little what I needed to do. And still, I'm learning all the time because things are always changing in this world. So
Yeah. So, yeah, you mentioned that the industry's changed a lot even since you started. What is would you say, overall shape of blogging professionally now? How are folks making money now? And is it highly saturated? Is it harder to break into now than it was in 2011, or do you think it's about the same? Kind of what does the industry look like, and what are people doing day to day, and also how are they making money?
yeah, I think, well, there's more blogs than ever, but I don't think that it's too late or too saturated, because I think a lot of people are doing it wrong in the sense that a lot of people are getting into blogging because they want to travel, or they want free makeup or free clothes, or whatever the reason. A lot of times it's very like, I want this thing. It's kind of internal, and sometimes a little bit selfish, to be honest. Whereas I think the people doing it right are approaching it more with a giving approach. So you might have a mission. I want to help women travel solo confidently. That's why I started my blog. Or I want to help people eat healthier. I want to help Black women feel confident camping. I just saw a blog about that today. And when you approach it with this kind of a mission in mind, it's a lot easier to build a community. And from there, it makes a lot of sense to work with brands that fulfill that mission, to create products that fulfill that mission. So once you have that mission, everything you do becomes a lot more clear, because everything you do is going to be just helping to further that mission, basically.
Gotcha. So people can kind of go astray if they start for kind of selfish or happy-go-lucky or kind of get-rich-quick reasons. That definitely makes sense. And
Yeah, in the travel industry specifically, that's what I know best because that's where I am. A lot of people do it because they want to work with brands and get free trips, which is fine. I mean, nothing wrong with maybe wanting that, but that shouldn't be your be all end all reason for starting this business because you're going to realize it's not what you thought. It's a lot more work than you probably thought, and free trips do not pay your rent. So you need to figure out how to also make it into a business.
got it. So other than that kind of maybe naivete would be a good word. But what else do you find that people are common mistakes that people make, or maybe that you have made? Um, really common mistakes that people make when they're trying to get into this professionally.
Yeah, I see the number one reason I see people fail at this is they try to do everything at once. And the thing is, for most bloggers, maybe you have help in the beginning, but usually not. You are doing everything. You're writing the content, you're coming up with the business plan, even if it's kind of, one you draw on paper. You're running the social media channels, and you might be doing Pinterest and Facebook and Instagram and all these different things. A lot of people dive in and they try to do everything at once instead of learning slowly and saying, okay, you know what? I'm in phase one. I'm going to work on building my brand, launching my website, pinning down that mission statement, and then moving on to the next phase, which might be creating the content plan and getting some blog posts out there. And then maybe next you're like, okay, I'm going to work on building my email list now and doing these things one by one or maybe two things at a time. You can't do everything at once or you're just going to get so burnt out. And the other thing is you're not going to fully understand how to do anything because you're trying to learn everything. So it's better to learn slowly and say, okay, I'm going to get really clear on search engine optimization. Once I understand that, then I'm going to move on to the next thing.
That's really interesting. How long did you find the learning curve before it? Because it feels to me that on the blogs and other websites I've worked on, you can be writing great content, but you have no marketing. So very few people are reading it. Now you have content and marketing, but you have no revenue model. So people are reading it and it's good, but you're not making any money. So it's like, it's a lot of pieces that all feel mandatory, so to speak, from the standpoint of, a business really working. And I'm kind of curious, how do you sequence those things? And is the advice to people just sort of prepare for, really a learning curve that might last months or even years, and just know that, for the first 6 months, X is not going to happen because you don't have a revenue model yet, or you haven't thought about the SEO side of your business yet. Is that kind of how it works? You just kind of have to accept that really these things go in sequence and you kind of can't do them all at once.
Yeah, I think it depends on your background because I've worked with people who worked at an SEO agency and if they're going to be ahead of the game. Or maybe they worked at a company where they kind of saw how like the business was built. So they'll have an edge there. But I've also worked with so many people who just are sort of trying this and they're really starting from scratch. So they're going to have more of a learning curve, but there still is going to be this sort of building of like, I think of it sort of as, okay, first you're building the foundation, then you're thinking of your content strategy, and then you're really trying to create like a visibility strategy, getting people to the site. I like to think after that you're going to try to convert them into email subscribers. And then from there, you can nurture those people and convert them into customers. That's kind of the journey I think a lot of people can follow and see success. In terms of monetization, I think you asked this before, and I actually don't know if I fully answered it. The way I make money, at least, there's a few different ways. Selling products and services, which is something I think a lot of bloggers don't do, but should. You're going to have so much more control over your income. Working with brands and tourism boards. And you can actually get paid for press trips, or you can get paid to promote things on your Instagram. The thing there is you really do want to make sure that the brands you work with and the campaigns you take on are still in line with your mission. You don't want to be working with a brand that makes absolutely no sense and your audience is going to be like, what the heck is this? Affiliate marketing, which is maybe you use a certain type of backpack. So you join their affiliate program and then you link to that backpack and then people purchase it and you get a commission for the referral. That's a great way all bloggers should be utilizing to make money. display ads. I work with Mediavine, but there's all different networks. Mediavine, I think you need a minimum of 25,000 sessions. They have a few stipulations, but there's Ezoic. Their terms are a little looser. There's Google AdSense, which I don't know how it is today, but Google AdSense doesn't pay as well. And creating content, I would say, for other brands. So personally, I create content for a few brands like Marriott and Hilton for their website, and then I can get paid for that. So those are a few ways. I mean, the sky really is the limit, but those are some good starting points for people to think about in terms of how they might make money blogging.
Oh, that's really interesting. So you mentioned that the sequence, when we were talking about sequencing, you mentioned sort of foundation into content strategy into, I can't remember the word you used, but to me it sounded basically like marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the foundation itself, what is that? Can you say a little bit more about that pre-content strategy piece?
Yeah, so you have to know your brands because otherwise you're not going to know what to write. So that's why I would put that before. Like a lot of people come into this and they don't even know what their mission is. They just know they want to have the independence that a blogger has. They want to be their own boss and get paid to be creative, basically, as I like to say. So before you even write that first blog post, you really want to know your mission, your values, your beliefs, and even the tangible things like what does your website look like, the colors, and get that all set before you move on to say, okay, this is the content that's going to fulfill that mission and attract the audience that I'm trying to attract.
Got it. So it's a little bit of having really a defined mission and kind of an understanding of what you stand for, what you're interested in.
Oh, I think that's the most important part. I mean, even before the colors and the fonts and all that,
Mm-hmm.
you want to know that mission before you write anything, before you publish anything on Facebook or Instagram or anything like that.
Let's talk actually a little bit about the tech side. As I mentioned, I'm a WordPress developer by trade, so I build websites using what I presume is probably the most common blogging software in the world. And I've also had really good experiences with Squarespace.
Mm-hmm.
How big a barrier to entry are you finding technology to be for folks, and how did you, I guess, how did you get around that, and how do you advise folks get around that?
I think it's become easier. When I started blogging, it's hard to remember because this was 2011. I remember it being trickier. And now when I show people how to set up, the hosting and the website, I'm like, wow, this is like one click. It is really easy nowadays. I remember it being more technical, but maybe I was just so new to this world. I just found it more technical. Some people do have some trouble, but there are so many great resources, especially like I often will recommend like Bluehost, for example. They have a really great video that you can watch. And right now I use, what is my hosting called? I'm actually forgetting the name. I did use WP Engine. I really liked them, but they have, anyway, all these hosting services have all this documentation that's super clear of just click this, click this, click this. And then you can have your website up in, 5 minutes, really.
Oh, cool. So let's talk a little bit about the community side of blogging. One thing that kind of that I know I wouldn't know how to do is if I was going to start, a blog, a sort of a solo blog about anything, my travels or my writing journey or whatever, I would really struggle to turn that into a community that was actually engaged. I wouldn't know the first step to take in doing that. So how did you approach that for Jesse on a Journey? And in general, can you just talk about kind of the major elements or pieces in really building, an engaged community around the content you're creating?
Yeah, so I think, again, it starts with that mission. Once you have a mission, you have kind of a reason to build this community. One thing a lot of bloggers don't do well that I have found has really helped me build my business is growing an email list and really nurturing that email list with valuable content. So I email my list every week. And I think Gary Vaynerchuk is the one who came up with this method, but the give, ask method. So one email will be teaching a valuable strategy. The next week, I'll send an email sharing about a great free app that will help them. The next week, I might share about a free giveaway, just all this great, free, valuable content. And then the next week, I might pitch an affiliate partner or my own product. So I'm not constantly just spamming them with sales pitches. I'm really giving a lot before I ask for something. that has been invaluable. And honestly, when I pitch, my own product, say, when I'm doing like a launch, I think almost maybe 100% of my sales come from my email list, pretty much. Even my, I'll use Facebook ads and get people onto my list, and then I'll email them a bunch and kind of nurture them to that point. But yeah, I find having an email list is really helpful. And what I have done in the past year or two is I've also created a Facebook group. So when people join my email list in the welcome email, I have a prompt to then join the Facebook group, where I can just post a little bit more frequently and a little bit more off the cuff. And I can also do live videos in there that will help answer some of the questions that my audience has. Speaking of questions, I like to kind of keep track of questions that people ask me and questions I see people ask in various forums and Facebook groups. So I can start to think about the problems that my audience has and how I might be able to help solve them. And once you help people start solving these problems, it's easier to start growing that engaged community.
Got it. I was really interested, and it makes a lot of sense now that you've said it, that being able to create a community comes back to knowing your mission, knowing the help that you're out to give the world. I think that for me, social media is kind of a difficult space to be in sometimes, or it's a difficult space to be intentional about. Like, I want to grow a Facebook page, I want to grow a Facebook group, and I think because of that, it's more difficult to remember that, I'm on here because I want to help people, in my case, take the next step on their writing journeys. And this Facebook ad that I do will help people become aware. All those things are kind of self-talk I have to do in some way.
Oh, yeah.
I guess the question side of it is that the mission that you have for Jesse on a Journey, was that kind of in place in 2011? Is it the same as it was 8 years ago? Has it evolved over time? And really, kind of, what is it? What is the thing that gets you, what is that kind of guiding principle that is the through line on your content and the way you engage with your mailing lists and on social media?
Yeah, so when I started, I was a solo female traveler, so that's what I was covering. I don't think I thought of it in terms of a mission back then, but now it really is to kind of empower women to feel confident traveling solo. I also incorporate a lot of active adventures, wellness, and sustainable tourism. Those are kind of like other pieces of my puzzle. But over time, I've also added this blogging aspect because I've had so many people, like on a daily basis, ask me questions about blogging. So what I do is actually segment my list. I have my solo female travel segment that gets the solo female travel emails, but I also have a blogging segment that'll get those emails. I actually have a lot of different tags I put on people, so I can really kind of narrow down their interests and say, okay, this person wants to know about Facebook ads. This person wants to know about working with brands, just to better tailor content to them. But solo female travel and blogging are two kind of the overarching categories, I would say.
Got it. So
Yeah.
it almost sounds to me like you kind of realized that there were a few things that you were in a position to help people with.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much kind of wrapped in, it sounds like there's a bit of a straight line between that and, okay, this is my mission. It's sort of like, well, geez, I can really help with this. Was it kind of that simple? I mean, was it, a 3-day trip in the desert with no water, and then, your mission rose with the rising sun, or was it sort of like, people really need help with this, and man, I can do it?
Yeah. So in college, I planned this huge summer backpacking trip, and everyone wanted to go, and so it was like time to actually book things, and then no one wanted to go anymore, and I was like, I've invested so much time into planning this. So I went by myself for a summer to Europe, and that's when I was kind of like, okay, actually I wasn't even blogging then, but actually that trip is what made me see, oh wow, you can like travel solo as a female, like this is really cool. And then I went to Southeast Asia, I went to South America. And people always told me, oh, you're crazy, that's so unsafe. And I'm like, no, it's really not. I mean, of course, you have to think about certain things, but I've traveled solo all over the world, and it's not something that people should not do, which is the opposite of what a lot of people think. So I basically saw this fear that people had, and people were telling me, oh, you can't do that. You can't go to South America solo. I'm like, well, watch me. I just went for 4 months and I had a great time. So I wanted to show people that, basically.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Now there's a lot more solo female travel bloggers, but in 2011 there wasn't really anyone covering this.
mhm.
So I was like, okay, there's kind of a gap I can fill here.
Yeah. Do you think it's important for folks to be kind of um, in a space that's not? How important do you think it has been for you to kind of be the first in something that then grew from there? And is that realistic for folks who are starting these days? And is it important to find that, or is it fine if you're the 20th solo female travel blogger through the door as opposed to the first or second?
I think if you can find a way to really do something different, you're going to have an easier time. So I usually tell people to try to really find a narrow niche, like what is that special thing that you do. So maybe you're solo female travel, but maybe there's some other thing you can add into there to make it really unique. Maybe it's the special skill you have. For example, maybe a lot of people cover yoga travel, but you are a yoga teacher who travels. Like I've worked with this woman, I'm working with her now. She's an archaeologist and she wants to create a blog about archaeology destinations that people can travel to. And she's specifically targeting women. And she's an archaeologist. So that's something really unique and special that she can add to something that maybe is already being done in some way, but not in the way that she's going to cover it, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah, that's really good advice, I think. Um, oh geez, I had a something you said kind of. Well, I can't remember what my next question was. Darn it. It was a good one too. Give me about 10 seconds to see if I can filter it back in. Oh yeah, it was about just kind of the sort of the long game. I was thinking as you were talking, like I feel like being a solo female traveler is something that you can create content about in perpetuity. You know, there's always places you haven't been, there's always experiences you haven't had. You mentioned some other blog topics like, you know, how African American women can feel comfortable camping, for example. And I wonder, like, is there a content wall you hit at, you know, after, in your case, 8 years, even on something as expansive as solo female travel, or for you know, more narrowly niched topics? What do you do? Do you have to, how do you, how has that been in your experience? And for people who do have a fairly narrow topic, do you have to kind of pivot and grow what you talk about, or, you know, what's the strategy there? And is that even an issue?
I would say try to think of something that you can truly cover forever. I know a woman who had a blog. Her blog was actually called 20 something travel. And now she is a 34-year-old woman with children.
Does
So
she still run that blog?
she had to rename it.
Uh, I guess, I mean, they're still making movies under 20th Century Fox, so.
Yeah, I mean, like, and that's the thing. Her community went with her because the people who've been with her in the beginning, who are in their 20s,
Right.
are also in their 30s now. So it wasn't like, I mean, I don't know. I can't really speak totally for her, but watching what she does, I don't think she's suffering. I think she has a great blog and she's doing well. But maybe when she started the 20 something travel, didn't cross her mind like, oh, I'm not going to be 20 something forever. So
that's the
I tell
problem with 20
people, like,
somethings.
yeah. Well, I tell a lot of people like, oh, I'm studying abroad in Australia or I'm volunteering in Thailand. I want to write a blog about it. I'm like, okay, well, you want to think longer term because once that study abroad is over or that volunteer project is over, what are you going to write about?
Right.
So really think about what you'll be doing next and how you can create something that's more long term.
Hmm. Well, what, if any, other advice, really of any kind, would you give as you know, kind of really, really please get this into your brain stuff for people who want to start blogging professionally?
Yeah, I said it before, but I'll say it again because I think it's really important. Really think about a product you can create because a lot of, and maybe this is a little bit more in the travel space, but so many people just want to work with brands. And when you do that, if that's the only way you're going to make money, you then have to struggle every month to find these partnerships. And if you don't find one every month, and especially one that can actually pay your bills and give you income to like go out to eat or whatever you want to do, you're going to be struggling and you might end up having to say yes to campaigns that aren't a great fit, which is going to hurt you in the long run. If you have your own product that further helps your audience, you can make money on that every single day, really. You can make money. Like my laptop broke when I was in Panama And I still made money every single day because I was selling my products on my website and also through Facebook ads. So it didn't hurt me to not be physically working. So really think about your own products, and even affiliate marketing, which is something, people can be buying those affiliate products while you're asleep. So you want to really think about a few ways you can make money through passive income. And having your own products isn't always passive income, but things you don't need to be running around the globe for all the time. You could be in your pajamas, relaxing and still
Right.
making money. Maybe
Yeah,
you're
that's
sick or you break your leg and you
yeah.
can't go take Instagram photos all day, or whatever.
Maybe,
That's going to happen sometimes.
maybe from the waist up. Hopefully, you're not working with a shoe brand.
Yeah,
That's been
exactly.
my experience too, just in my own career, which is quite different. Although I actually do run a blog that is monetized on WordPress development, and yeah, it's almost impossible to describe the difference between passive income and trading time for money.
Yeah.
Once you get deeply into trading time for money, and then you realize that there is such a thing as passive income, it's very difficult to imagine what a difference that is. That's been
Oh,
my
yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
in terms of creating product, what was your process there? With our blog, which is called wpshout.com, it's a resource for people who are or wish to become WordPress developers. We wrote content for a very long time with absolutely no revenue model. And one of the first ways that we actually managed to monetize was we realized that a lot of the content we put together, if we sequenced it and made it better and recorded videos along with it and created infographics for it, could be a pretty good guide to the fundamentals of WordPress development. So we took a lot of the content that we've been writing for free over the past couple of years and we packaged it into a book. And that's really been one of the backbones of the revenue that we've made on that site. I'm curious if it was similar for you or how you went about creating well,
Yeah.
what is your product, a content product, like a book, or what is it that you sell?
I have actually kind of two things. I have courses and I have a membership community. So that's sort of my digital products. And I think digital products are great because courses, ebooks, all that kind of stuff is very low overhead versus if you're physically making something. Though I will say there are a lot of companies now that kind of help you out with overhead. Like there's a company called Bonfire that you can sell, say, t-shirts. They're really nice t-shirts. They actually sent me some samples. And they will only take a commission from what you sell. So there's no kind of loss. But that is something you usually do have to think about with a physical product. There might be some loss if you don't do well with sales, whereas a digital product, yeah, you have to pay for a few things, but it's not crazy. And then my other product is I actually lead photo tours in New York City. And that came again from listening to my audience. I constantly had people asking me to show them around New York when they came here. So I'm like, I got to turn this into something. So yeah, I've been leading those since 2014. And I'm actually
That's
speaking at a
amazing.
conference this weekend about how to start tours through your blog.
Oh my God. So
Yeah.
a photo tour is basically people who are interested in photography go with you and sort of photograph New York City
I
with
actually
you.
take photos of them. So
Oh, I see. How
it's a
cool.
private tour, and then you leave with like 100 plus photos.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah, I didn't really see anyone else doing that. Again, filling a gap. I saw one other person kind of doing it, but his branding and his audience is totally different. So
Mm,
then, yeah. And I actually didn't even see him when I started. I know he exists now, but
mm.
really just kind of the two of us. And I'm so shocked that more people aren't doing this, but I'm happy about it. So
Oh my God. Well, is there anything else you'd like to tell folks who are interested in this space of blogging professionally?
yeah, I feel like I covered most of the important points, but yeah, if you have a passion of some kind, and your mission could even be entertaining people or inspiring people in some way or helping people have some transformation. But if you have some kind of passion, um, get it out there. You don't have to be the top expert in the world on the topic. You just have to have experiences that you can share with others. And I think that's something else that people get scared about, especially if they want to create a course or write an ebook or something like that. Like, oh, but I'm not the solo female traveler who's been to the most places, or I'm not the most high earning blogger. Well, you don't have to be. You just have to have stories and experiences to share with others that can help them have a transformation like you have.
Mm, that's good advice. Do you want to say anything to our viewers about the courses you've taught and might teach in the future at writers.com?
Yeah, so I have a beginner blog that will help you kind of get set up and create that mission. It's really, I mean, there's of course the modules and the homework, but the discussion area is really nice because you can kind of bounce ideas off of people, and especially in the beginning stage, it's really nice to have people to bounce, oh, what do you think of this mission? Or, I'm trying to figure out what problems my audience might have. It's really helpful. And you set up your social media channels and all that. And then I also have a more advanced class that will help you kind of transition into the next phase of creating these monetization systems and figuring out exactly how you'll make money. So both of those, just depends on kind of where you are with your blogging journey. But yeah, the beginner course and then the more advanced course. And if you have questions about it, you can email me and we can talk about where you kind of might be in your blogging journey.
Jesse, thank you so much. It's so
Yeah.
great to talk to you, and really, there's such a wealth of good advice in here. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay.